What's up, guys? Good evening. Welcome. What's up, guys? I'm gonna wait for some of you to join me. I just jamming out to some guitar. I'm playing along with these guys called Hermanos Gutierrez. Hermanos Gutierrez. What's up? What's up? I ain't seen any comments yet. Good night. Alright, we got some people in the room. Let me, good evening, Ava. How are you doing? Well, this is a quick live. I haven't done one for the week, alright? So, it's kind of the end of the day. A little tired, but I have made a commitment to come regularly to you guys and have a conversation. So I don't think everybody's gonna be up right now. Definitely in the morning. A lot of you probably gonna see this. Give me 1 second there. Yeah, you hardly ever catch the live, right? But it's because, right? Yeah, hey Maureen, how are you doing? How are you doing? Yes, I think you guys are lucky tonight. Right, so let me just have a little chat with you lot. That applause is not for me, by the way. Tonight's topic is introspection. Let me actually lower this down, right the way down, so that we can chat. Hey Otto, good evening, how are you? All right, good evening to everybody. Thanks for joining. I know it's not a lot of us in the room, but I know tomorrow morning or through the day tomorrow, some of you guys are going to be able to catch up on the live stream and join us with your thoughts. Yeah, it's early in your neck of the woods. It's a little late in my neck of the woods. But I came to have a little chat about introspection, right? And I titled this live, The Corrupt, the Corrupted, and the Corruptible. Okay, 7:40 p.m. That's quite early, all right? Let me sort out my breeze situation quickly so that I'm not sweating. Hey Kevin, how you doing, brother? All right. Keep some of the old Gutierrez playing in the background. Yeah, give me 1 second. Respect, Joel. How you doing, bro? Yeah, I'm back. All right, I'm back and I'm cooler. So let's have a chat. All right. Recently, I think for the last few weeks, as I've looked into what's happened with the elections in particular, and especially coming out of that, just all the happenings, all right? I've been in a very reflective place, no doubt. I've eased up on the number of lives I've done because I kind of went into a place of introspection. So I'm coming back and sharing with you from the heart, right? So there's a lot to cover. But I'll start by telling you about a book of poetry that I would recommend anyone read, that whether you're into poetry or not, right? So there's an author by the name of Khalil Gibran. It's KhalilGibran. I've promoted his poetry for years now. I probably got the first of his works as a teenager when I was like 16. It's the first time I came across it, and it had a profound impact on me, and I recommend it to anyone. There are other poets, other bodies of work that I think people can draw inspiration from. There are holy books that people draw inspiration from. And I've read holy books, I've read different works of poetry. I think that particular work, and the work I'm referencing here is a collection of poets and poems, and the book is called The Prophet. He's done a few books, right? That's not his only work of poetry. It was probably one of the most popular lists. It's been on the global bestsellers list for a long time. I don't know if it's still on there, but it deserves to be. And sometimes people say, well, they're not going to read a book because it's popular. But sometimes a book is popular for a reason. And this particular collection of poems, I think, is popular for a reason. So I'll take you through a bit of the story, because I think the preamble to the actual to the poetry itself is quite a story. So there's this man, and he comes from a land far away, and he goes to this place, right? He goes to this citadel of people that are, in the beginning, unfamiliar to him. So he goes and he lives among them. And basically, he spends a long time, he spends years there, looking at their behavior, studying them. Like, he doesn't say much, he's just always around. He doesn't say much, he's interacting, he's looking, he's learning, he's studying these people. And then one day, a ship comes on the horizon, and that's his ship. He has to go back to the ship, and he has to go on this return journey. He walks on this path to leave the city, and people follow him out of the city, and they stop him as he's leaving, and they say, basically in Creolese, let me colloquialize it, they say, "Mister, how you going just to dry? You just ups and left just to dry." And the man's like, "Well, there's my ship there, I gotta go, I spent some time here." And then they tell him, they say, "Well, you have lived among us for such a long time, like you know us in a way that you could tell us things about ourselves. You've been in all the little cracks and the places around the town. You could surely tell us things about ourselves, or give us some insights into how we are, our culture, and different topics. And we want you to share some of that before you go." So this guy turns around and he starts to share. Now, of course, you can read that story on two levels. On one level, you could read it literally, like the guy lived there, he came on a ship, he lived there for his life in this citadel, and then he was leaving, and he saw his ship coming, and then the people literally followed him out and then asked him all of these questions. Or there are metaphorical inferences, I think, that are you can derive from the text. So the ship that arrives, that he comes on, that could be symbolic of birth. of coming into the world. And then he lives among a people, as you do when you're born. And then at some point, a ship appears on the horizon to take him back to his people, but to take him back to the great energy. Khalil Gibran was a religious poet. I don't think he wasn't, I want to say it wasn't overt in all of his work, right? But you could definitely tell he had a reverence for a higher being, right? He does reference God in a lot of his poems, right? But it's not overtly Christian poetry. In fact, I think he was a Sufi Muslim, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, okay? If he was not a Sufi, right? But his poetry was infused with this reverence of divinity. So I could easily see his passage when he is called back by this ship as a metaphor itself for death, the ending of life, for when you are called back to that great energy from which you came in the beginning. And in essence, he has grown older, he's grown wiser, and he's lived among these people, and they follow him and they ask him to tell him things. So from there, they start with the preamble, or Khalil starts with the preamble, and he lays out this story beautifully, and then he proceeds with these poems, right? The book is called The Prophet, for those of you that joined me a bit late, or, well, maybe early, according to Maureen. It's 7 o'clock for you, right? It's almost 11 p.m. for me. So what progresses now is then people come forward from the crowd and they say, speak to us of love. And he'll say something epic and profound about love, right? And then they'll say, speak to us of pain. And you say something epic and profound about pain and joy. And, he goes through these topics. Like, he has this concept in one of the poems where he says, your sorrow is the cup that is carved to contain your joy. And in essence, you can only really appreciate your greatest happiness if you have also experienced your greatest sorrow. Because I guess joy is the absence of sorrow, and sorrow the absence of joy. And many philosophies would have us try to balance ourselves, not wallow too much in sorrow, but stand in its gaze long enough to afford ourselves the benefit of self-reflection, and not pursue joy too much that it becomes an all-consuming task. To balance ourselves, to find balance. That's a recurring theme in many doctrines and philosophies. And he said, speak to us of marriage, of death, of children. And I tell you guys, very, very profound material. And I think of all, I love poetry, right? Going back, you could go back to Keats even. I like Keats and these guys, but Khalil Gibran has a way with words. It's fantastic. Like, I love literature, okay? And when somebody can string words together in a way that can evoke rich thoughts and right, I respect that. I respect that. So I respect him for that. And as a teenager, I'm telling you, I read this book when I was 16, about 15, 16 is when I came across this book for the first time. And I always thought that was such a noble thing, to live among people, right? And study them and try to understand them, and then be able to reflect back insightful information about them to them, okay? And I realized years later that's how I try to pattern part of my own life. I live here in Guyana. I observe, I take note of things around me that are beyond whatever my narrow fields of interest are, because I'm interested in different things, all right? But I stray outside that to try and understand the culture, the people that I'm living with, the politicians that are governing us, and I'm always seeking insight, clarity, understanding, and to do so with as much empathy as I can afford. And over time, my gaze has shifted in different directions. This is my preamble, all right? I think at first it started, especially when I moved back to Guyana, right? It started with me having these ideas that I'm going to come home to my country and contribute. But you realize that people don't want to hear ideas of how things can be better when they're locked into a system. That's the first thing any remigrant will realize when they come back to Guyana with any big bright ideas of what could be better and what could. A lot of people don't want to hear that because they feel challenged by it. All right. And then at some point, I started focusing on the deficiencies of the system. Having lived in a system that functioned very, very well, I could see these glaring deficiencies. And you know, people say I'm hating on the PPP and the like. I'm not hating on them. You know, the PPP is who got me started, who made me pick up my camera, right? It's like 11 years ago, because I read in the Sunday newspaper. I was sitting at home having my coffee, and I read in the Sunday newspaper that there was a situation down at the Repentier Cemetery, and dead bodies were being dumped in tin boxes in an abandoned morgue, and dogs. All right, I'm back. Like the life, share the life. Yeah, so I was you know, just sitting, minding my own business, living my life, and I found out about this horrifying situation, and dogs pulling the bodies, and I was reading that little children had to pass close by to go to school. So I read that article. It was in Kaitro News. I read that in absolute shock, horror, disbelief, you know, because on a core level, I do care for people. I do care for people. I genuinely do. I saw a TikTok the other day where someone was saying, you know, the things, he was talking about why reading is good. He was saying the things that you read, you might not remember every word, but they become a part of you. And maybe it's my fault that I am of this disposition by the things I chose to read, you know. I don't make any apologies for it, but maybe that's why I have this perspective. But that disturbed me so much that I got in my car and I drove down to the cemetery to verify whether this article, because, you know, I moved back here, people were telling me Kaitro News makes up a lot of lies, and they're always lying. Yeah, I didn't have any party, right? It was only the other day I picked a party, and it wasn't the PNC or PPP, right? So I didn't know. I went to verify because it was just like, I was like, never, not my country, never. And I went and I drove there, and to bomb cloud, there was 2 tin boxes, and they had dead bodies in an abandoned morgue in Le Repentier Cemetery. Okay? And I becoming friends with the grave digger, the man who had run the place at the time, Mr. Aziz. I ended up becoming friends with all of them. I interviewed them. That's what started me off. The PPP started me off. Y'all come and always trolling me. Y'all started me. I was minding my own business until I realized my country had become the kind of place where we didn't even have respect for the dead, and dogs were pulling them, and little children had to see that. That blew my mind, guys. That blew my mind. So, I mean, out of that story, they did end up building a crematorium. That Memorial Gardens crematorium there is there because of the documentary I put out. All right, and I tried to do a number of I went there. I went back to Walter Rodney. Y'all know how much time I spend in the cemetery just trying to highlight more than any normal human being would go and spend in a cemetery. To just highlight it is the only place I would go, and literally I start welling up with this emotion I can't explain. It's bring tears to my, literal tears to my eyes when I go in that cemetery. Any cemetery in that condition, as a matter of fact, is literally my eyes is where I start to feel emotional. Because there's just too many things to think about. Like, not only the contribution of the people who are lying there and how disrespected they are, but also to think of the loved ones that have to come and try and navigate those spaces, and like the kind of funerals we have. We have some of the saddest funerals in Guyana, guys. Sad, 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 sad. Sad. When last you see a funeral in Guyana? Sad. Sad. People with their loved ones having to traipse through bush and build makeshift bridges with pallets and rickety wood, and they have to pay a man days before to build a tomb and then cut down some bush. You know, sometimes they have bees. You know how many bees living in the tombs? Right? And then the government had it using as a garbage dump for a number of years. It's nice to hear the PPP are going to save Georgetown now, but they literally had the place, like, they turned the cemetery into the dump of the city, the Mandela dump site. There's loads of tombs covered in garbage to this day. Right now, the new tombs, being built on the they're being built on garbage. The new go and check. It's being built on garbage. The new tombs is so much garbage. They never removed it. Right? We had a promised solid waste to energy plant, I think circa 2013. Never material signal. Yeah. They put down a set of pipes to trap methane. Nothing actually happened after that. Right? And I have to get to solid waste management at the Hags Bosch next. Kind of happy Priya is in that position, you know. Priya is was a very uncouth Minister of Education. I say so because some of the things that she said were just unbecoming of a Minister of Education, to whom little children are supposed to be able to look up to and pivot in their quest for someone of high moral standing and ethical standing that represents and embodies the principles of good communication, you know. So I want to turn with that. Just I'm going to pivot, right? Want to turn to the fact. So I'm taking you through the fact I went through these phases. So I looked at stuff like that. I looked at infrastructure. I looked at the politicians. I've examined politicians and the type of this dictatorial, authoritarian leadership that we have. And I'm thinking always, you know, I'm assimilating data and an understanding of this society and this culture, my people, my brothers and sisters, you guys, all right? So it's a dynamic system, is always updating with information. And I feel I should spend more time turning a lens at the actual population itself, at us, right? Those people, the masses, all of us, right? I'm going to look at the politicians and the leaders as well, but let me explain why it's important that not just I, but all of us have a think about all of us, you know? So I'll tell you how I got here. I noted that we have a few pedophiles, alleged pedophiles, and some that literal pedophiles on candidate lists. Some have made their way into parliament, right? There are abusers. I'm just looking at the political landscape. You have bullies like the bushy-haired guy, right, with his morning live, where he incessantly critiques, incessantly lies, defames, victimizes others, joined by, you know, the host of flying monkeys. Like, and before anyone say I call him a monkey, I'm using the term that you use for the people that surround narcissists. So, well, themselves also being narcissists, but joined by folks such as Josh Kanai, this Jaskaran guy, the Robin Singhs of this world, the people that sit online, Amir Ahmad, the folks that sit online, spread misinformation, defamation, and try to corrupt civil discourse the best they can by trolling at the behest of their handlers. All right? Where do these people come from? Right? I think I've spent enough time, at least for now, focusing on some of their personality traits and the toxic environment that's created at the top, right? But we must also turn the lens at society itself. And it's telling me something, okay? If I took a group, a sample of 50 people from 700,000 or 800,000 of them, all right? And I calculated that even 10% or 20% or 30% of them were criminals, deviants, predators, frauds. What does that sample size tell me about the population in general? And I mean, at least where sexual offenses are concerned, the evidence does seem to bear out that Guyana does have a serious problem with sexual predators, right? We have a serious problem in this country with the assault of underage girls, and boys, right? Of women. Right? I was told of a case couple weeks ago. I came to tell you about somebody at one of the schools, right? The school in Berbice, that was assaulted, and then changed school and was sexually assaulted again. Then I learned yesterday of someone else that was repeatedly assaulted, right? There's also a problem in the child care system. These girls that society has deemed bad girls, and the parents don't want anything to do with them, and they get put into the system, and then they're predators working in the system waiting for them. So you have reports of ministers being predators. You have people in the child care system that are allegedly predators. You have people on the streets that are predators. You have people grooming schoolgirls in the buses that are predators. You have taxi drivers having relationship with some of these underage girls. There's not a dang on all the taxi drivers out there, but they're predators among you. They're predators scattered throughout our society, and we don't have a register for these people. They don't have a digitized database, it seems, to catch repeat offenders. And people like the justice system itself, like when we speak of corruption and the extent of its rot, this election in particular has really shown us that its reach is almost infinite. It stretches into every branch of government, right? The executive, the legislative, and the judicial. Everywhere. So the conviction rate at one point, I remember, for sexual offenses was like 3%. There's a problem in our society, okay? So the way that, just to add to that before I come to my proposed solution or solutions, the type of abusive language that we often hear in Parliament, where people, like, I always remember that the speech where somebody interrupted with something about a dildo. Y'all remind me how the dildo made its way into Parliament. Remind me, somebody. I just remember there was dildo heckling, right, at one of these at a sitting of Parliament. Dildo? Oh no, right? But that kind of abusive communication where we've lost the art of debate, of nuanced communication. I mean, sometimes I feel like your whole life in this country is just a lie, right? And this to the politicians out there, right? I know I'm counting myself among them now, right? But there's more story I gotta tell you all later, right? But this is to the people in government. Don't lie to the children. It's a sort of national gaslighting to grow up reading in the school book, in your primary school book. Mind you, I was an avid reader. I think I started reading novels when I was 9 years old. I was reading novels, right? But I love reading, so I know all these stories y'all had in the books. I remember them, right? About how the policeman is there, and the policeman serves and protects his neighborhood, and the policeman is a good man, and he is the man to call if you have any trouble. He is there to serve and protect you. You might as well make a new school book. Well, this is Mr. Policeman. He is very underpaid. He is ill-treated by the state. He is treated like a dog by his leaders. He is given a promotion now and again for do things or forget things. He is constantly in economic hardship and he is looking for it. He may need something because the place hot. He may require something because your boy is just dead. He may accept something because you want left something. He may want to know what you gonna do for yourself because you was going 5 miles over the speed limit, right? His hands may need greasing, okay? Your cocaine may turn into flour for the right price. That was not in the textbook. You could get kidnapped because of some government minister by the same purpose meant to serve and protect you and end up. That's not in the book. That was not in the book. You lied, right? You read in the book as well. The president and the ministers are meant to serve in the best interests of the nation, and that's another lie. They were meant to. Right? We are told that we have a constitution. I do wish more people would read it. I wish it was required reading in our curriculum. And it's anyone's guess why it's not. Anyone's guess why it is not. Because if you read the Constitution, I don't think most people would even argue with me when I come to talk about some of the problems that we're experiencing. Most of you would not argue with me. Those of you who do, you wouldn't argue. We would all be arguing the same thing. Because according to the laws, according to the Constitution, how things are set out in there, we are not following. Most of those acts are not being followed properly or enforced. Most of them. There's so much in there that's meant to make sure that we have a well-functioning country, and we cannot even collectively agree that the system is broken down in so many ways. You know? So, we do need to turn the lens at ourselves. It's not only in Parliament that people abuse each other about dildo and you want this and you as a cross or whatever. It starts in the streets. It starts in the communities that ultimately produce these politicians. Where do they come from? They say it takes a village. How is your village? How is our village raising its children? That's the question we need to ask. If we are to guarantee there's any change in the cadre of politician that emerges from the next generation, how is our village raising the child? What environment are they living in? Can we acknowledge that our relationship with authority and to it is shaped by our relationship with authority at a young age? Many young people in this country have a very abusive relationship with authority. You know, anytime I dare speak about child abuse in this country, that's probably one of the hottest topics I could probably post about on my page. It doesn't matter if I bring statistics to show that places that curbed the amount of violence towards children saw beneficial social outcomes in terms of crime rate dropping, right? People feeling less likely to, less like they needed to own a gun in the first place. They found a correlation between children who suffered abuse and felt defenseless as children that wanted to own guns when they were adults because they still had that psychological fear of being a victim. So the gun then provided security for them as an adult. It was a drop off in people that felt the need to have a weapon in the first place, right? So it doesn't matter how many times I come and try to have that conversation, I could see that it's not popular. That starts our relationship with authority. Are we creating an environment where children are heard and where they can speak their mind and where they can criticize and be treated as autonomous beings? Or do we live in an environment where we believe on some level they must be dominated? Don't speak, you must be spoken to. You don't challenge anything. I think that clearly is producing a lot of adults whose relationship with authority on the other end of childhood is one where they tolerate the abuses of state. They learn to stay silent in the face of suffering. They normalize the deployment of state assets to terrorize, victimize, and abuse them in return for speaking their truth, because they've grown accustomed to this throughout their life, from a young age to their adulthood, in many different areas. You know, even going into your job and the way that some bosses victimize their employees. We generally have a toxic relationship with authority in this country, and I think these are some of the echoes of our colonial past still reverberating through the consciousness of our society. I can hear it, I can see it. These are things we need to be cognizant of, and I'm talking about this level of introspection on a personal level because it has to happen on a personal level before it can happen on a community-wide level. Each of us has to make the commitment to be an agent of kindness, of empathy, of understanding, to make a commitment that when we are faced with an opposing view or a critical view from someone else, we don't immediately rush to cuss them or tell them about their mother or their bati or their patty cake or their BT, as I see some people is even go to telling people about their BT. They don't even see the other person. I don't even understand that. You know what I'm saying? Or like, or what else do people, or the last man or the last woman or who toe stink. You know, it's making a commitment to not go in that direction. It's making a commitment to communicate in a healthy manner with each other. That's something that the politicians are not necessarily going to do on their own. I am definitely in this space to challenge that behavior. But the reason all of us need to commit to some level of this, or at least enough of us to spark a change and to educate and communicate why this is important to others, because when this level of abusive communication is abnormal in your own life, when it becomes less normal in your own community, something that you're not tolerating within your own space, then it will become clearer that it is abnormal coming from the halls of power. That is when I feel people maybe more want to reject such behavior. because they've made personal changes. And that's where I think we're at that level where we need to do some deep personal introspection in how we are raising our children, right? The environments they grow up in. Are we advocating enough? I see they put up lights at some of these playgrounds, and some places that place in Linden is taking 10 years to complete. Someone finished high school in that time already. The amount of time it takes, the amount of lost opportunities for our young people, I don't think that we value expediency as much as we should. Things just seem to drag on and on and on and on and on. There's so many playgrounds that have been abandoned in this country where cows have been allowed to roam, and there's loads of cow holes. I'm not interested in anybody coming to tell me they're saving me from a problem they created. I just want to see it fixed. I wish it had never been created and allowed to fester in the first place. But again, there's research to suggest that in communities that lack proper spaces for recreation and just mental refreshment, there's higher levels of aggression, there are higher levels of violence, and there can be higher levels of crime. You see? So these things are important. When I see these new communities springing up, these thousands of house lots, there's almost a desperation to just sell land and make money off selling land. And I know who will be getting the kickbacks now, but to make the kickback money and to sell this land. What I don't see is an effort to plan in such a way that, okay, this community has a park. This diamond here is far out. Let's make sure there's a nice park for these people to walk through locally, so everyone doesn't have to travel all the way to Georgetown to go to the national park, or have to drive all the way out to Diamond to go to over the river to the new Joe Vera Park whenever they're going to finish that. They have something in their area. And up the highway, you curate another space to show respect for the environment we are a part of. I saw the government recently launched a tree planting program, like 50,000 trees or whatever. I will show you guys. I'm going to show you guys some drone footage from like 2016, thereabouts, where I captured like the back of South and Ogle, like that whole area where they put the bypass road and where they cleared to put some of those house lots. Y'all done clear must see 50,000 trees and burn them in that area alone, and then go including the back of Diamond, them places where there's thousands of trees have been felled and burned in the last 5 years. Thousands of them. So replanting them, and then most of them dead. Like, gosh, man, I love plants. You can't put a plant in the ground. This for any of you gardeners out there that attach to the government. Oh my God. You put a plant in it, you spit on it. No, go spit on it. Jeez, you have to dig a hole, dry hole, shove it in, then be like, all right, buddy, hope you grow. Bye. Thanks to the money. Ka-ching! Right? Some of them palm trees we throw down there is like thousands of dollars for them palm tree. Thousands, like 40,000, 50,000 and up for some of them palm tree. Dead. I'm wondering at some point if the trees go in and vote. Dead. I said, what, they couldn't even spit on y'all by even one. That's one for you. And then you gotta get a bottle of water because you can get dry mouth after a while. Enough said, right? So afterwards, after the tree start dying, I see the man go and start putting water on it. I even saw a Facebook post where somebody was showing that they're throwing water, fertilizer on the plant. You know what I'm saying? Nari, the agriculture people were involved. I saw them when they were planting the trees. I wonder who got paid or who is getting paid for 50,000 trees, especially so many dead ones. Cause y'all want dead tree. I'm a bee man. I be all over the place. I see a lot of dead bush around the place. If the government is looking to buy dead trees, I know places. Y'all holler at your boy. Was what, $50 million in dead trees? I could go and put it in the ground, make a show, dig a hole, dry hole. because you don't know the plan there. And right, so any of you guys know, right? So it's it's tiring sometimes, and it's led me to this thought that yeah, indeed, it's not just because of the corrupt people in society. There's corrupt people, and then there are corruptible people, right? So that means making the decision that if you're going over the speed limit, this is where it gets personal, right? If you're going over the speed limit and you get pulled over, and the policeman is trying to do his job in the office, tell you gotta give you a ticket, that you take your ticket, right? And not offer him a 5,000 or 10 or how much ever money you offer. That's the difference. It means choosing to drive at the speed limit, right? It means I don't have no tint on my car. I would love to have tint on my car. I'm not lying. I know they're gonna have it hot. I agree. And I would like the law to change, right? I have tint on my car. Number one, I'm not able with the harassment. I'm not driving around with thousands of dollars to hand out everywhere I go, to wind down my window and I have to friend up to everybody and be in people's pocket or have my, because for me that's basically buying my tongue. You collecting money all over the place. It's a lot of people trying to buy your tongue, right? That if they do something, you mustn't talk. Right? That's one reason you guys come critic. I could say that man is one of the most dishonest people in Guyana. He's devoted time. It's just I'm not able to spend millions of dollars to go behind critic and some of these people. Millions. I don't have government contract money, but they are defamatory, right? And at some point, you can see me in court with them. But critics, they might spend a lot of time saying I take money from Mohammed and I take money and I Venezuelan operative. No, nobody gonna buy my tongue. If something happens with Azudin and I need to speak about it, I will speak. And I came during election time, I was very honest, right? I was very honest. I'm happy that his party got seats, right? I'm happy with the outcome. It shakes up the political arena right now. Some of the sleeping opposition gonna wake up. I'm happy to see people like Terrence Campbell coming to the front of APNU. I'm happy with a lot, right? I'm not happy the fact that the election was rigged, okay? And that's a certainty, okay? It was rigged. Illegal voters were allowed to vote according to Section 2B of Article 159 of the Constitution. So anybody trying to troll your boy, just go argue whatever you was going to write to me. First, Google Constitution of Guyana. Scroll to Article 159, read 2B, read all of it, but read 2B. Google what it means. Google the meaning between resident, domicile. Check your legal definitions for domicile under Commonwealth case law if you must. And then screenshot that bit of the Constitution and send it to yourself as a message and then reply to the Constitution. Wherever you was gonna come argue with me, cuss me whatever, cuss the Constitution. I would hope you don't do that, as a respectful citizen. But don't even argue. Argue with according to the Constitution, the election was rigged, right? Yeah, I have nothing more to say. Yeah, go to the book and argue with the book, right? That's just one of the ways. But anyhow, I tell y'all, before I release tidbit, I'll come up with a whole shebang for y'all. But yeah, it still requires us at the end of the day to do some introspection. We complain about the garbage all around the place. I think what could happen, because we do talk. I'm saying about we society. People are complaining. They do make note in on Facebook. I see people writing letters, right? But there also seems to be a sense of hopelessness. Like, why try? Nobody is listening. Nobody will do anything. It's not worth me speaking out, writing in, resisting things I know are wrong. And ultimately, we decide the direction our society goes in. It's like any game where you those group games where you give 10 people a square or a cube and tell them push it in a direction. At some point, wherever the majority is pushing is going to end up becoming the direction. So I think it's worth considering that. If you want to see more kindness reflected from you, from your leadership, start being more kind to each other. Start encouraging that in your community. Start encouraging healthier communication patterns, so we're not always at each other's throats. Make it abnormal so that they have no choice but to follow suit. Right? I think it's two ends of the society feeding off each other in a very unhealthy, vicious circle where each justifies its own malicious, cruel acts of hatred based on the actions of the other. The population justify their own law breaking because the politicians are breaking the law. The politicians justify the fact they're breaking the law because look, the population are also breaking the law. Everyone is trying to evade something. And I don't know if we could see yet that we've been turned into a nation of hustlers, and perhaps it's quite difficult to imagine the alternatives just because we're stuck in this system. And there are many people, I try to be cognizant and empathetic of the fact there are many people that have only ever experienced this as their reality. Thus, it's, even though they might see something different on TV, it's very difficult for them to connect with that as a possible reality within their own country. And on a level, I do feel sad about that. No, Maureen, I was not happy with that aspect of the election. I was not happy with the fact that so many laws were flouted. Least of all, most of all, I think the Constitution. I saw a post from Jai Paul Sharma a few days ago. I meant to do something. I'm going to release something on VPAC, but I challenged his assertion. He said that he showed that there were persons from the PPP who he said he showed that their address, okay, because the list of candidates, it's understood that you're supposed to come from the region that you're representing, right? So they generate a list for Region 5. The people for Region 5, he was arguing, are supposed to all live and reside in Region 5. I saw a follow-up argument by someone else also claiming that, right? I was going to challenge that on the grounds that I didn't read anywhere that said it. Said someone in good standing. I'm going to go back to the clause, but I didn't see anywhere that said it's not allowed explicitly, right? I think it's poor showing, because you should have geographical representation. You should have someone that lives in your local area that can represent your issues, you can be sure is going to go to Parliament and represent your issues directly. I think that's nothing but there's nothing but good that can come out of that. And it is deceptive to put people for regions, like packing the list, is engineering the list to have your people in the right areas, basically, but they all have Region 4 addresses. So on principle, yes, illegal. I don't know if that has been established, so I shared it and then I went and fact checked it. And then I deleted it like 10 minutes after I shared it. But I need to reshare my complete analysis so you guys can then take it back. So the war that will start soon between America and Venezuela. James, my friend, thanks for joining me, brother. Now, if you've been following me for the last couple years, I've been talking about the issue with the Guyana Venezuela border controversy, right? I gone all the way back. There's a series on my TikTok actually that's titled Guyana Venezuela border conflict, right? Or controversy. Because conflict has its own connotation, right? Though there have been skirmishes, but thus far we have been told that those skirmishes are with gangs and not the Venezuelan military. So we can't outright say it's conflict. It's a controversy over the border, right? And we were already awarded Essequibo region, but I went back, James. I went all the way back to 1666. I covered the history of the conflict. I covered the fact that Guyana basically allowed our national reserve to become grossly depleted. We disbanded national service. We basically, I guess, out of hatred for Burnham, right? And I'm not here to defend Burnham. I think the guy had some brilliant ideas, right? I was dead. I was alive after he died, right? Let me get my facts straight. He died, and then I was bored. But yet, to this day, with my gray hair and everything, people expect me to answer for Burnham. Not saying you, James, right? But yeah, so everything that was set in place then to help safeguard the sovereignty of the Republic was broken down, right? Broken down by this administration, as a matter of fact, because there was ethnic insecurities. I'm just gonna call a spade here, James, right? So they were broken down. Community policing groups and private security forces, some of them run by, cartel type people, have been allowed to fill the void and pull a lot of those security personnel, plus coupled with poor working conditions and things like onion stew and weevil and split peas cook up at the border, and having poor provisions like no field hospital, no proper tourniquet, and probably having to use a piece of nearby stringy fabric to hold your bullet wound together when you get powed at the border, has all contributed to a significant decline in people that even willing to apply to join the armed forces and disciplined forces. And then they have the corruption there. So my brother, yes, I would talk about the war. It's a very depressing topic, however, because like I just broke down there in brief, we're screwed, right? So even years now talking about the fact that some of these trillions of dollars that have been duly invested in biscuit roads and the enrichment of the friends, family, and favorites crew, such that should any conflict arise involving the aforementioned parties, the entire government, their family, children included, pets, and even maybe the nannies, they will vanish faster than you can say abracadabra, right? They will be gone. They will be first people out of this country, because there's a lot of them that have more money at this point than they know what to do with, right? So that was the money, James, that was supposed to be spent, maybe buying some drones, buying some surface to airs, buying some defense system and quietly stashing it in the border region, building some bases, giving people acres of free land, like announcing. Rather than giving 50,000 house lot, we're putting most of them in region 4 to try and help engineer the population ahead of the elections. And you have all these, addresses in a pool and giving people all these boxy lots. James, they could have already do a program over the last 5 years and say, here what? We're giving everybody 200 acre land, but it's there on the border, and you're getting gun license, big guns on the yeah, you gotta do, go down there. You got the army and support you. You want clear, you have to be sending bulldozers, blah, blah, we giving acres, you have some ownership of the land. So many Guyanese hard to own land, and we're gonna make some links to the region, and we start developing that region, populating it. And plus, we put in a policy in place that there is no more than X number of Venezuelans allowed to occupy Essequibo. Mis venezolano hermanos y hermanas, right? Te amo y te amos. I don't know, did I say it right? I love you guys, but you know, this is about territorial sovereignty, right? Soberanidad. I don't know if that's the word, but it just feels right. You know what I'm saying? It's about our territorial integrity. And you don't just give out birth certificates willy-nilly, you know, just to win the election and then, you know, create a voting block. Because at some point, I mean, Jagdeo did say 100,000 of them. You worry about a war? A lot of us been worried about what's happening internally, which is called like a silent invasion. Right? No background checks, nothing. You don't know the man Maduro sending people. You come out of jail, you go and live in Guyana. You got gang, go and live in Guyana. You too, hey military man, alright, go and live in Guyana. We had terrorist attack this year, remember? A couple months ago. Terrorists, first time ever bomb foreign terrorists on our soil. Government ain't saying nothing about it again. Can't find these people. Don't know how many of them left here. You worry about a war between America and Venezuela? A war finished very quickly, and if Venezuela decide they're flying over here and drop 2 bombs, I'm sorry my brother, what do you want me to say at this point? We're going to use the government slingshot to pelt it out of the air? That would be as a direct result of the failure of this government, right? And I mean, the opposition, I see at points they say they don't want to engage. This is the APNU, right? I'm talking about the last 5 years. I want to say I hold all parties responsible, and to some extent I do, but I do know overtures were made, and because of the dictatorial nature of the PPP, they are more interested in, you know, my way or the highway, we do it the right way, rather than collaboration, always until it's too late, until we're embarrassed. Then they reach out to cross the divide to share the shame, right? They don't share the process, and they don't share the glory. They will want to share the shame. And that's why they got Mark Phillips there. Anything shameful, they say Marky, represent we by, go to front. And Mark just come, he's always look tired, right? Like the gentle grandpa. What is wrong? Is a big hole in your road? What's wrong? Your cane getting eaten out by bug? What's wrong? The wharf collapsed into the river? It's your good friend Marky, right? Here's what they're sending for. And the next one is the attack dog, ballhead. Jack Jay's just sit down attacking people. I see a TikTok there, they only pull out and I see like 5 reporters be in the room, 6 people with the cameras, everybody just, you know, this big echo chamber. I sorry for them. You know, before I think about those people, I sorry. If you watching, you guys sit down at them press conferences, that's your job, is make you, force you to go and sit down and listen to them thing. I sorry for you, buddy. I sorry for you. You guys that have to come and troll me, especially the ones that be paid to sit down on the internet, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry that is what your life has been reduced to in this country. You know, you deserve better. You deserve better than that. To have a job that maybe taps into the love inside you instead of the hatred, right? That would send you to the internet to do more than try and drag other people, right? And to engage in debate that concerns the prosperity of our motherland. So, yeah, I feel sorry for those people. But all things being balanced, you know, accountability is still very important in the system. So we do have to start with ourselves. We have to start asking or praying to the Lord to protect me when the time comes. Well, there's a lot that can be said for praying to the Lord or praying to Allah or any of the gods in the Hindu pantheon or Buddha, you know. I think we're all trying to access the same energy, ultimately, whatever you call it. But I won't get bogged down in arguing that point. But what I will say is, in any spiritual text you read, you will read, yes, about praying. And, you know, interestingly enough, I found a very interesting link between spirituality, unexpected, right? I was listening to some theoretical physics, like a lecture on is quantum theory, but is theoretical physics, and strangely enough, it got me thinking about spirituality in a different way, especially when it comes to manifesting something, you know, like if you try to observe something in a quantum system, then its coordinate is not really defined until you look at it, but you can influence certain properties. And in a way, you speak about praying, and you could also call, some people call that manifesting, or trying to basically fix a coordinate by observing a future, right, that you already determine and fill with life. I read another book once called neuro-linguistic programming. Somebody told me it was quack psychology, but it had a lot of very good ideas. And you know, it's good to read widely, because I saw some of these ideas repeated in other books that were not considered quack psychology. But this same thing of fixing an idea, I use it to become good at tennis and squash. I don't play tennis anymore, right? But I use it to become good. You have an idea, whatever you're trying to do or accomplish, you imagine it, you fill it with life, you know, till it feels real, and you can do a mental rehearsal in your head. You do it for saxophone, you know, instruments I play. You can do a lot mentally that influences the rate at which you get better at whatever you're doing physically. So I think praying to deities does have its place, but there is never substitute for action. And in fact, it's good if we do those things in tandem. You can pray or hope for better and work towards it as well. I think that is testament to true determination to change something or actuate a reality that we imagine to be different from the one we are currently in. It's not good enough to pray. I think praying alone, and forgive me for being so frank, is lazy. You know, if I am sitting here, I want a glass of water, I become thirsty, right? Actually, I got some coffee. And let me just show you, I hope y'all can see, it's coffee in there, because you know, whenever I drinking something on this live, somebody's all come, one of the trolls is come be like, you drunk, you drink it. No, it's coffee, gosh boy, I tired though, so, right? It's, if I was thirsty and I just sat here and I prayed for that cup to come closer to me, I just hoped for it, would it come any closer to me? I could sit here and pray for 100 years. That cup is not gonna, maybe somebody is gonna walk in eventually when I'm half dead. They didn't hear from Francis in 4 days. Where is he? What, right? And then coming by me, and I'm gonna be here like, cup, come to me. And they're gonna be like, Francis, what's wrong? You know, you look dry and, right? And squingy and, right? Dry. But the cup is right there. And just for want of action, I could have brought it closer to me. And there's nothing wrong with doing the two in tandem. I want a glass of water. And I know this might be an oversimplification, but I want to quench my thirst. And I imagine it. And then I go and do it. I take the actions meant to make it happen. And I would apply the same logic to society and, you know, any desire to change it. We must first imagine what we would like to see. We must acknowledge any problems that do exist. We must devise solutions for them. We must fill our image, our vision of what is possible with life, with richness, with color, with purpose, and then set forth on the task of getting it done. You know, and that's perhaps the other end of these conversations when I speak about kindness, and I guess in these times that's probably radical, because we also live in a very cruel society. People celebrate each other's misfortune, right? And I saw a quote from Donald Trump today, actually, where he's saying he doesn't want the best for his enemies and stuff like that. I was like, wow, the world is in a really crazy place. I'm looking at Israel and Gaza, right? And I guess it takes a while to understand why they're even a thing. Like, people that come to preach about kindness, to preach about empathy, to preach about stewardship, about taking care of each other, about being your brother, respecting the environment, about respecting women, about being kind to children and treating animals well and the elderly. And it feel like radical concepts sometimes, you know, and those are the people that they kill in these books. Think about it, right? So yeah, like I said, the books you read become a part of you. So I wonder if maybe sometimes I wonder if I read too many books and it made me detached from how reality actually is. And I have a very, because, you know, people tell me I'm very optimistic about humanity. I do feel a great sense of optimism about what is possible. And I have a deep belief that there's just hardly a day that goes by that I don't feel inspired at what right? There's hardly a day when I don't look at bees and I see what people can accomplish working towards a common goal, working in service of each other. I always come and tell you, I don't see greedy bees that, like, they don't, you know, open a hive and see like 1% of the hive hogging 80% of the honey, and they call in the other 20% or the other 99% scrapes and low lives or hungry belly bees. You don't see that. Like, you don't see bees giving out contract to build comb for like 5B, get a set of comb to build. They could barely do it, they subcontract it to some other bee, you get some slapdash comb. You never see that. You never. You know, the things, and as you know, our species is corrupt. And you know, again, extending empathy, I do say that the bees are like 10 million years older than our species. So I give us some grace as a younger species. We're even younger than the ants, technically. I give us some grace that we're still learning, but we don't have a lot of time to learn because there's never been another species that's had this much impact on the earth itself, and that has been able to have so much impact on all other life forms, right? So I know there are the skeptics out there, but apparently we are already in the 6th mass extinction event, especially concerning insects, and a lot of animals have gone more than statistically would be considered normal, right? And at an increasing rate. So we do have a great responsibility. With great power comes great responsibility. And one thing I do wish for is that we are able to come to some consensus on this territory that we live on, that we are able to project our consciousness further afield to try or start considering some of the larger problems that face the planet we live on, right? And while other organisms do seem at some point after a few million years to organize themselves into some sort of hive mind or superorganism, humanity, we've sort of done that with technology and data, but maybe I should say it's not streamlined yet. And yeah, that's a whole other discussion. But just to bring us back to center before I go, I think I've been talking for a little while now. But let us be introspective, especially in these coming years, about what it is we want and how we are going to get it. It's not good enough to voice our opinions on Facebook alone. We must each consider how we are agents of kindness, of compassion, of empathy, of understanding, of good communication. How are we being agents of those things in the outside world? How are we communicating with others? What type of discussions do we have? Do we devolve into arguments or cuss out or abuse out? Why would you expect any different of politicians that come from a society like that, right? I do expect different of our leaders, as a matter of fact, but in this life, it's always good to consider things from all perspectives. So I have spent a lot of time looking at corruption at the top, and we need to look at it on the other side, the flip side, society. We are more of a corrupt society than I think most people would be willing to admit, and we're not very fond of criticism as a people, in particular when people come from foreign lands and have anything to say. Maybe they come and they look around at the solid waste. I remembered a few videos where people have come and spoken about the garbage or something else, and they're beaten into submission by the Guyanese in the comment section. You understand? So, like with the vilest things, okay? So, it starts with that. It starts with being able to accept critique and not feeling you have to cuss somebody out. We can be civilized. And the more we practice these things, the more we practice honesty in our dealings with each other, the more we practice stewardship of our environment, the more we make it central to our lives to be kind to others, to be considerate even of animals, we will start to forge a better society, especially with regard to how we treat children, right? How we protect children. So yeah, that's what I'll tell you guys. Yeah, Maureen, dishonesty is quite a feature. I see my bro Jason just joined us. What's going on, bro? That's definitely one of the more honest people I've known in my life. I'm just seeing, I'm going through some of the comments. No, I don't write computer programs per se, James, right? And I'm not. Yeah, I see why. I understand, Laura. I see why people can't resign, right? I see. Well, on the topic of resignations, I do believe that we are say GPPP come, GPPP come, GPPC come, GPPC come. Got him, right? So that's what I'm gonna call it from now, because it seems biased, okay? And my biggest disappointment, one of them this election season, is the revelation of how hypocritical some of my fellow brothers and sisters really are. Okay, this time 5 years ago in 2020, I was joining you guys in condemning any attempt to rig our electoral process. Here I am in 2025, similarly condemning the same thing, and a lot of those voices are now the ones defending it. Okay, so rigging is something that both parties have participated in over the history of our country, talking with PPP and the PNC, right? To different degrees. They're always pointing the finger at each other, but I'm fed up of it, right? At the end of the day, to argue over the right, and this is why tribalism is so erosive to decency itself, right? And the integrity of our society. People feel the need to excuse the wrongs of their party simply on the basis of belonging to that party. And it doesn't matter what happens, you just condone it. Again, we need to turn the lens inward and focus on ourselves. If you belong to a party and you refuse to hold your leaders accountable for their actions, people that swore they would serve you, if you refuse just on the basis of the magical shirt that they are wearing, what does that mean for the future of the country you claim to love? You know, I got laugh there because you laugh or you cry in this place, you know. So sometimes I have a heavy heart for my country. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I think it's Kian that probably in a live we're doing the other day, he did cover that. The truth of it is it's entirely possible to put my head down and just make money and forget about, don't talk about no potholes, just go after money, right? I know there's a lot of money to be made. I could just go after it. There's just something in me that I can't see people in hardship, and I feel it's a duty to speak out about certain things. You are never far yourself. You don't know. It could be illness, it could be something, right? You could be at the door of desperation yourself. And that's how I was brought up, that you care for others, you try to serve the society you live in as best you can, and you speak out for the people that don't have a voice or cannot use their voice, right? But we all could do with growing some balls in this society, I believe, and representing issues more. And I've been seeing evidence of that. I've been seeing more and more people come to the fore. But especially in the next 5 years, it's going to become more important because there's going to be increased pushback from the dictatorship to try and censor anybody trying to speak the truth or have a rational conversation online. All right? So it's past midnight now. I'm really grateful for those of you that have joined me. Just checking if I've missed anything. Moral values, I'll address that in closing. Well, there's a lot to be said about morality, but it's also down to ethics. Like, it's an unethical society, and what makes it tiring or what makes it mentally exhausting, trying to devise solutions, is you could devise as many solutions as you want, but starting with those that have a stranglehold on the system, it's not in their interest to implement some of those things, like digitizing all the records to prevent corruption. I think it's Albania just instituted the first AI government minister. You heard that right? AI minister that check in contracts and public tenders. That's the AI minister job. Even at the AI got like a image thing, and she talking, explaining her role and saying she has no desires. She don't need money. She not there to thief. She ain't got no account for stashing. She ain't got no children. She ain't got no house. She have no bills. She just there to look at procurement, contracts, tenders, and look for fraud. That's that AI minister's job. You think Guyana would ever put in an AI minister? Let me sip a little coffee, bye. Never. Well, I would hope. I'm optimistic, right? Doesn't make sense. In the same way I told you guys earlier about trying to manifest a future, it works better the more people that are involved in the activity. The more of us that visualize a Guyana that is free of corruption, that is more clean, that serves its citizens, that is more conducive to healthy living, that's the kind of place people would want to come back to and our young people would want to stay. The more of us that visualize that and fill it with life and almost make it like an inevitability, and then are determined to devise and take actions to get us there, we will have the better country that we are seeking. We will not have it waiting on someone else to deliver it into our lap, not when we, the people, belong to the majority. A lot of the changes that you seek ultimately start either within, and if you have already made those changes, then the next step is to be an agent of change and communicate what you have learned, the insights you have gathered, to someone else. It may be difficult, but difficult is the road, right? So no, James, I'm glad that you've been so chatty tonight. You've given me some good points to respond to, but no, the more people rely on their own understanding, the worse things get. You might be suggesting we should all be relying on divine understanding, but when I speak to understanding, I don't just speak to understanding on a more subjective level, but objective understanding is something that we must pursue as well, and especially where we're able to work and devise solutions to problems, and even to investigate those problems ourselves and with the help of others, and to have our conclusions or observations or our own understandings challenged by others, and to receive those challenges and criticisms in a respectful manner, and not feel the need to abuse the other person as to the sourness of their big toe, and respond in kind with something that's, that can meet them halfway, and try to find that halfway point. Then is it our own understanding, or is it a common understanding? And surely a common understanding is something to pursue, right, in a society. So I would urge you to do that. I would urge you to employ your consciousness as you live. I would urge you to tap into the reservoir of love that we are born from and that we will ultimately return to. Tap into it in your living, waking hours and share of it, right? Resist those that try to push you in the direction of your more hateful, malicious self. I'm sure everyone has a dark side. Bury it. Bury it. It's not doing you any good in the world. Maybe in a corrupt society, but they say that the good and evil, that's the pursuit or the battle in the world. That's also the internal battle, right? As we seek to understand ourselves and unpack the toxic habits we might have observed in other people or even possess in our own life, as you come across them, bury them, cut them off. Nurture the things that are good. Don't allow the weeds to take over your garden. And in so doing, we might limit the weeds that threaten to strangle the garden that is Guyana, right? The garden that could be Guyana. First, we must free our own minds and our lives and our communities of the weeds, right? The weeds of hate and malice and disaffection for others on the basis of our ethnicity or political orientation, whatever orientation, right? So yeah, the brighter day that we seek is within our reach, and that is because it is within our power. Everyone has a sphere of control. You might not be able to control the country, but each of us has someone that listens to us, has somebody that looks up to us, somebody that would be willing to give us an ear, somebody that we could sit with and debate and reason. So each of us is potentially an agent for change. And if you believe, as I do, in the fact that this country could be way better, that we can have much healthier discourse, then it is upon us, you and I, to promote that outside, right? And have difficult conversations now and again, and temper our own inclination to get flustered when the going gets tough, right? And keep going. When the going gets tough, the tough keep going, right? So I can end with that. I know it's after midnight. I love you guys as always. I wish you the best. I wish this country the best, right? And I hope that at some point we can utilize these tools, these digital tools, to foster more of that common understanding that I think would take us in a more positive direction. That's what I want to see. It saddens me. I'm a vacuum of, well, not a vacuum, I'm like a Hoover for news, right? And because I'm in communication with you guys a lot of people send me their stories or call, so I feel extra aware of just how dark our society is, you know, like, and some days that saddens me. So I guess that's why I came to talk to you today, that to tell you that we perhaps need to turn the lens inward. If we're looking at the predators in government, we need to be looking at them in our own communities, in our own families. We're asking for accountability at the top. We must also be willing to be accountable. We're asking the corrupt politicians to not take bribe. You resist the urge to offer one or take accountability for your mistakes on the road, right? Especially the people you knock down somebody and then go and try and pay off somebody for them. Bye. Guys, I love you. It's late. Got a little work to do. And probably turning around 2-3 o'clock tonight or this morning, right? And so because I got some stuff to share with you guys and I'm not finished yet. So take care, you guys. As always, love ya.